Today, I was actually discussing with a parent about her problem. The mom was really worried because the child is not listening to her and she's not able to make him disciplined. This term discipline, it's very important in every parent's journey because we have a lot of fear and a lot of emotion attached to that word discipline. You know why? Because we are always thinking that the child has to be disciplined in order to make his life or future successful. The same thing this parent was expressing, that how am I going to help my child make his life better because he is not disciplined enough. So today I was discussing with her the same thing I'm going to share with you. But the primary point I was sharing with her was how discipline is misunderstood. What is the misconception around discipline? This is the topic we are going to discuss in this video. Myself, Romini, your parenting coach. Why discipline is misunderstood? Why there is a misconception? Because most of the time, when discipline is implemented in an environment between the parent and the child, it has always been used to control or give punishment or threaten. So what here happened is, punishment is the basic approach for making a child disciplined, has become a permanent thought in many of the parents. The parent have to be strict to implement discipline. This is a common misconception which most of us are really bounded because of that. So what we keep doing is, often we try to threaten the child, we try to tell the child to do this, otherwise I'll give you punishment. So when this process is getting repeated, what happens is, automatically you're making the child highly feel fearful. Now what happens is, you're trying to make the child disciplined out of fear and not making the child realize that I have to discipline because I have to grow as a better person. So now what here happens is, over a period of time, a lot of fear gets clubbed up in the child because you're trying to make it disciplined. But once they grow up and they are going to make their choices, again they will not choose to be disciplined person. Because we have always created that discipline out of fear and not out of self-realization. The second thing is inconsistency. Whenever we are trying to implement the values around discipline, whatever kind of values which we have, we are so inconsistent in that process that the child gets confused. What happens is, suddenly when a child is misbehaving, you're going to tell a new value at that time, no, you should not be behaving like that. What happens is, it confuses the child that it doesn't know how to retaliate at that particular point of time. Now what happens is, discipline should be a part and parcel of the lifestyle itself, where every day we have some rules, some boundaries or some values which is being nurtured, and not at the time when they misbehave where you're going to implement that values. This is called inconsistency because we don't implement regularly some kind of rules and boundaries, but suddenly we react at the time when they misbehave. Now what happens is, when you are implementing this behavior in a much inconsistent way, now what you're doing is, you're ignoring a lot of positive behavior which the child has exhibited all throughout this time. Like for example, if you take for the past 1 month, the child would have behaved 100 times in a much better way, but 3 times it would have behaved in a much bad manner to our ideology, to a bad manner. But what bothers and haunts us a lot is this 3 instances and not this 100 instances. Now what happens is, we are ignoring their actual positive behavior and forget to really appreciate them or encourage them for this process, but rather we focus highly on this area where they have misbehaved. This is the second misconception. The third one is, we are overlooking individual differences. Because there will be siblings in the same family where one child will be like more disciplined and another child is not really disciplined. It will be a very tantramatic or a very active child. Hyperactive child, whatever you call it. Now what happens is, this child is very easy to handle. This child is not easy to handle. So, and then when you go to the person outside, you see that the other children be in a same way and your child is in a different way. Now what happens is, we forget to identify the individual differences because every child is unique and every parent has to expect from the child based on the age, based on the environment, based on the different kinds of cultural differences that we are growing inside our home or outside our home. Now what happens is, we forget the differences that they are having in their environment or where they are growing up, but we just look at that child is behaving, why can't you? So now what happens is, you are actually trying to make the child feel low about themselves, and ultimately they try to create a lack of communication. There is a communication gap. What happens is you're trying to communicate, you have to do this without control, and the child has to listen to it without asking any questions to you. Now, what here happens is the child closes itself from communicating to you, and they'll stop expressing their problems because you're not understanding their individual differences. So, most of the time, what we do is when we as parents are implementing the discipline, we are most of the time in that position, we are most of the time operating with an emotion of frustration, which expressed in the form of anger. Now, what we are doing is when we are always expressing this type of emotion to implement discipline, what we are showing our child, we are the role models for our children, no? She herself or he himself is becoming angry and frustrated, but always asks me not to become angry. So, we are not being a role model to them. And ultimately, what actually we do is, in the name of discipline, we use this term discipline as a tool to control your child and not to help them self-realize themselves. So this is the misconception around this discipline process which we are trying to implement. So let me know in the comment box how discipline has become more challenging because of us. In the next video, I'll tell you how we can implement this discipline in a much positive way and in an environment where effectiveness can be increased, where the communication we can increase, where understanding between you and the child can be increased without using it as a tool to control or as a tool to threaten and create fear in them. Okay, let me know in the comment box what are the ways you are trying to discipline the child. Thank you.